Hello, and welcome back to the Lions Roar Book of the Month podcast. I'm Samantha Sims, campus and community editor, and I'm here with you all to share with you a book that I really enjoy named Archer's Voice. So I'm going to start off with a little bit about myself. I love to read, so when I was asked to do this podcast series, or the specific episode in this podcast series, I had a lot of books to choose from, and I did go back and forth a couple of times. But ultimately, I chose Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan, and I'm going to share with you guys some reasons why. So, let's kind of get into it. So, I found this book on Book Talk, which, if you don't know, is the TikTok version of, cut that. One moment. It's the, okay. Starting again. So, I found this book on Book Talk, which is the book lovers side of TikTok. You know how TikTok has different sides. Book Talk. So I found this book on Book Talk, and the advertisement was a book if you want to cry. I did cry, but it was a good cry-ish. So I did like the book, and it did catch my attention. So I went to my local Barnes & Nobles, because I'm not originally from here. We have Barnes & Nobles where I'm from. I bought the book, and I finished this book in about 3 days. Yes, I was that invested. It's about close to around 400 to be exact. Let's see, 388. That's not including the acknowledgments. But it is with an extended epilogue. So, to kind of get more into the book portion of this podcast, I'm going to start with a brief summary and overall view of the novel. I will like to note, I'm going to try my best not to spoil anything in this podcast. However, we are talking about a book. Books have plots, which make them books. So, and if you're talking about a book, you usually have to mention the plot, which thus leads to spoilers. If you do not want to get spoiled, I recommend kind of listening to cue words and being like, oh, is she going to spoil it? And then stop the video if you're not interested in reading it. But if you are if you are bloody Frankenstein, cut that out. This is awful. Okay, so I'm going to start with a brief summary and kind of overall look on the novel. I do want to be fully honest with you all. There might be spoilers. I tried my best when I was writing the outline for this podcast to not include spoilers, just in case a viewer does want to read the book on their own merit. However, it is a book podcast, so I might say something you'll be like, oh my god, I warned you. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and read the back of the novel, which shouldn't have too many spoilers because it is straight from the book. So, Archer's Voice. I wanted to find myself in a small town of... Hold on, Aaron. One moment. P-E-L-I-O-N. Pilone? Pilone, Maine? Pilone? How do you pronounce Pilone? Pilone. This better not be in the damn blooper thing. I will find you. I will hunt you. Matter of fact, I know where you work. How do you pronounce what? One moment.
Pelion.
Peely, huh?
Pelion.
Pelion?
Pelion.
Pelion. Okay. Cut all that out. So, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and read the back of the book. So, Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. I wanted to lose myself in the small town of Pelion, Maine, to forget everything I had left behind. The sound of rain, the blood, the coldness of the gun against my skin. For 6 months, each breath had been a reminder that I survived and my dad didn't. I'm almost safe again. But in the moment I met Archer Hale, my entire world not tits. Son of a burger. Okay. Take 3. I'm I'm never doing this shit by myself again. Anyway. So I'm going to start. Yeah, we're... Oh boy. We're backing this all the way up. Not all the way. Midway. So I'm going to start with a brief summary and overview of the novel. Full disclosure, I wanted to do this podcast without mentioning any spoilers. However, I am talking about the book, the plot of the book, things like that. So if you feel like there might be a spoiler coming up, I definitely notify you all, hey, stop the video, possible spoiler. But if you feel like you're interested in the book and you want to read it on your own merit, then I suggest cutting to the end of the podcast, and that way you don't ruin anything for yourself. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and kind of get into the book. I'm going to read the back of it so that you all understand why it caught my attention in the first place. So, I wanted to lose myself in the small town of Petilone, Maine, to forget everything I had left behind. The sound of rain, the blood, the coldness of the gun against my skin. For 6 months, each breath has been a reminder that I survived, and my dad didn't. I'm almost safe again. But the moment I meet Archer Hale, my entire world tilts on its axis and never rights itself again. Until I trespass into his strange, silent, and isolated world, Archer communicates with no one. Yet, in his whiskey-colored eyes, something intangible happens between us. There's so much more to him than just his beauty, his presence, or the way his hands communicate with me, on me. But this town is mirrored in secrets and betrayals, and Archer is the explosive center of it all. So much passion, and so much hurt. But it's in Archer's silence that we might just find what we need to heal and to live. Did I get you? If so, stop the video now and go purchase. And if not, let me convince you some more. So, with just the back, you can definitely tell that, well, for starters, it's a romance. If you don't like romances, I'm sorry. I love them. It helps me to know what I want to expect once I get to that point in my life. But it does have a fair warning on the screen. It does say a love story. But along with romance, there's also a lot of drama. There's a slight thriller aspect to it. There's a lot of different genres going on. I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything. Sorry, that was a long silence. You can cut that out. So it definitely is a romance. It does have a lot of drama in it. A little bit of a kind of thriller undertone. It's really good. I really enjoyed the overall genre of the book. And I don't know if you could tell, but it is a little spicy. And if you don't know what spicy is, it's for a different day. So there have their moments where it's a little bit more of either one. There might be more drama in this chapter than there is romance. You might have a few segments or a few chapters where it's just romance, things like that. I will say that the thriller portion of the novel doesn't really come in until towards the ending, but that's what I enjoy myself. So I'm going to go ahead and get down to the plot. Again, spoiler warning, if you're already kind of interested, it piqued your interest, I would go ahead and maybe secure the book myself. But if you still need a little bit more convincing, let's go. So there's two main characters in the book, Bree Prescott and Archer Hale. Archer is, he's nonverbal. He was in a childhood accident which caused him to lose his voice. And because of that, he's been very isolated from the community until Bree came along. And Bree is the person who's speaking on the back of the book. It is in first person. It switches perspective, and it also goes between past and present. But in this portion right here, this is Bree speaking. So I will say that the book mainly stayed in Bree's perspective, but to be able to understand all of the drama and the thriller aspect, that mainly comes from Asher's side, which kind of, it became frustrating to me as a reader to only really be able to see and read and understand Bree perspective and not Archer, because to me, Archer, piqued my interest. But I will say that towards the end of the novel, I understood why it was mainly focused towards Bree. But we'll get to that. So Archer, being nonverbal, he has to use sign language as a way to communicate, and that plays a very key role in the novel. Personally, sign language has always interested me. I don't know if you guys know about the show Switched at Birth, but I started watching that during COVID, actually. We all know our COVID shows. So I started watching it during COVID, and it really piqued my interest. I started wanting to learn sign language. I actually started taking classes for sign language, and being able to read a book that used sign language, It wrote about sign signals and things like that used in sign language. It was very interesting to me, which was another thing that piqued my interest. Overall, the book is definitely about inner healing, inner acceptance, patience, and honesty, which are values that I hold dear to myself. 100% told on Bree's side, and Bree kind of has all of those in her character arc, but I feel like with Archer, it's very more so highlighted, which that gets further into the plot than I want to deal with you all, just in case that you do want to read the book yourself. But you can definitely see where Sheridan was going with the characters, and I really like that. Being able to see them grow throughout the novel really piqued my interest, and it made me enjoy the book even more. So, like I said at the beginning, this book made me cry. And it wasn't like a tear here or a tear there. They weren't happy tears either. It was like I was sobbing because I became so connected to these characters, which was excellent writing on Sheridan's part. Being able to really understand how their past was affecting their present, which was creating this kind of conflict between them two, but also being able to see them kind of grow together and heal each other, and then from there grow themselves. Beautiful. Beautiful. Loved it. But I did start crying. I was sobbing a lot. Really, really hard too. Like, that cry you feel in your chest? Yeah. So, I definitely recommend the book if you want a good cry. So with that being said, I'm going to go into what I loved about the book. Again, I've been kind of avoiding spoiling anything, but if there's going to be any spoilers, it will definitely be in this portion right here. So, I say again, if I have caught your interest, go get the book. Go read the book yourself, and then come back to me. Comment on our video. Let me know what you guys think about it. Things like that. But if you're not convinced, come with me a little bit longer. So, a few things that I loved about this book. I loved that it highlighted overcoming adversity and learning to step into whatever role you are meant to play in your life, in your society, and other people's lives. Just learning who you are, and from that point, being who you're meant to be. Again, highlighting Archer. Although Bree, it's mainly told from Bree's perspective. In my opinion, I feel like Archer is, I don't want to say a bigger character, but you can definitely see more things through art. You can definitely, bloody nuts. Hold on. Let me find a way to say this. You can definitely, okay. I'm ready. So you can, although Bree is, in a sense, the focal point of the novel, it's mainly told from her perspective. I feel like because it's told from her perspective, you can see Archer in her eyes, and thus you can see more of his growth in that way. So being able to see him overcome that adversity of not being able to vocally speak in a community. He was very much so ignored, disregarded. People would make fun of him, consider him the monster of the town and things like that. And to see him become who he became at the end of the novel, and just like owning who he was and making other people accept that and not making that like withhold him in life, it was amazing. And I feel like that is seen worldwide, if that makes sense. You see people with disabilities or mental health problems kind of be shunned from society, when really, like, they see society in a whole different way. They're able, if they're had the platform to use their voice and to speak and to change things, things would probably change for the better rather than changing for the worst. So definitely love that. Even Bree going through, obviously in the back of the novel there was a traumatic event. The sound of rain, the blood, the coldness of the gun against my skin, and then her being able to survive, and her dad didn't. Her dad did pass away, and she was there for that. Not going to say how he passed away, but he did pass away. And being in that moment, it really hindered her from moving forward in her life. Because really and truly, that's just traumatic, either way you put it. And a trauma like that can definitely stop someone from going forward in life. So it's 100% understandable. But being able to see her character throughout the novel grow and heal to where she became the woman who she became and moved her life forward despite that, again, I loved it. So, heartstrings. When I say I became attached to these characters, like, I read this book in the summertime. It is October, almost a year later, and I still love this book. I haven't reread it or anything. I still love it. These characters are people who you wish you could meet in real life and become friends with forever. Go to their house, enjoy time with them, communicate with them, just learn from them. This book will probably forever be one of my favorites. And it's because the author was able to create such characters to where they felt real. Mr. Donald. I'm sorry, Aaron, this is important. Hello? Yes, this is she. Hi, Mr. Donald. How are you? Slightly. I am in the middle of recording something, but it shouldn't, yeah. I'm gonna call you right back, I promise. Okay, will do. Bye-bye. I'm so sorry. I haven't talked to that man in like 2 years. Okay. So being able to really connect with these characters and see them grow on a whole nother level, I love that. And I feel like really and truly that's what books are meant to do. They're meant to transport you into this different life, into this different world, either in third person to where you're seeing the overall story, or in first person to where you're living someone else's life through a book. So I feel like Mia Sheridan did that very well in this book. This is the only book that I have read from her, and she definitely had me hooked from page 1 to page none. So, yeah. Also, heartstring, pull, moment. Delete that. We're going to delete that. Another thing that kind of pulled on my heartstrings, and going back to Archer, if you can't tell, he's kind of my favorite character. Going back to Archer, his whole character was mysterious throughout the novel, but towards the end, you know, that honesty factor started to kick in, and you're seeing these things that were happening to him as a child, and because he was nonverbal or became nonverbal, and there was a medical reason as to why, he was forced to keep all these secrets because no one cared enough to want to communicate with him. So seeing that and really understanding the truth behind that, it was like, at this point, I had already developed a connection with his character, but going backwards and seeing the pain and the hurt that he went through, that was a whole nother thing that I was like, wow. Like, she got me with this one. What a turn. What a turn. But with that, flows right into that self-love, self-healing, self-discovery journey. And as someone who's on her own self-love, self-healing, and self-discovery journey, it was perfect. It was perfect. The author did an excellent, excellent job of describing, of writing what it felt like to be going through that process, from both Bree's perspective and Archer. And at the time of reading this novel, I didn't even begin my journey. I was just kind of, rolling through it. But I feel like this book was probably one of the ways I was able to recognize, like, I didn't go through these experiences myself, but that process of isolating, like Bree had to isolate from that area where that traumatic event happened with her father, isolating and moving to a different state, a different town, something small, to where community became big for her. People became big for her. Being out in nature became big for her. Archer as well, he had to go through the process of isolating himself. But in that instance, isolating himself was probably not the best thing for him, because he needed to be around people. People needed to hear his voice, even if it wasn't verbal. So there are different healing pathways, and that's definitely highlighted in the book. And I love that. If you notice, I'm saying I love a lot of things because it's a great book, and I love the book, and you should 100% read it too. But anyway, definitely that self-love and self-healing journey. And actually, I will highlight on this specific event that happened in the book. At one point, Archer realized it's a love story, so, spoiler, him and Bree fell in love. Love story. Anyway, so they fell in love, and he had to separate himself because he needed to find himself. He needed to discover who he was, even though he couldn't speak. He still had thoughts, he still had feelings, he still had ambitions, and he needed to find those for himself. So there is a portion of the novel where he took himself and he left. He just left and he went away. There was a point in the novel where he didn't even know how to drive, and he was a 30-year-old man. He never learned. Nobody ever cared to teach him. So, things like that. I do know how to drive. Not everything I'm talking about can be directly related to you. It's just the overall scenario. Leaving, being able to find yourself, and coming back a better person, that's real. That's in this book. These things happen in real life, and the author definitely highlighted that. She grew on it, and it's really just, I don't want to say a coming-of-age novel. It's an adult novel, but at the same time, it's something that everyone can learn from. Okay. So lastly, kind of wrapping it up, the togetherness of the novel. I am campus and community editor, so being around people, talking to people, networking, things like that, that's huge for me. And in this book, you can definitely see where the community that was once isolating this one individual came together and rallied behind this one individual. And that for me was a very emotional moment. That was one of the moments I cried in, because it just means so much. And not even just wrapping around one person, but wrapping around two, accepting Bree for all that she was, the hurt individual she was, the scared individual she was. They rallied around her, and they built her up. And because they were able to build her up, she was able to build Archer up. And once Archer became built up, he was able to wrap it around and kind of make the whole community one. And it was all together, and it was whole, and it was amazing, and it was beautiful, and I loved it. So that was definitely a big thing for me, togetherness. And that was really seen from the beginning of the novel until the end. Everything I touched on really and truly was seen from the beginning of the novel to the end. And like I said previously, being able to see the characters grow in these specific points and others really just added to the novel as a whole. But with that being said, I'm going to really start to wrap up, and I'm going to leave you guys off with one of my favorite quotes. It is on the last page, because isn't that usually where the best quotes are? So, let's see. I have to find it. You can cut all this out. I probably should have put the page number. Damn. Okay, I'm ready. Okay, and resuming. So I'm going to wrap you guys off with my favorite quote of the novel. It is on the last page, because isn't that usually where the best quotes are? Well, some of the best. So, love slips quietly around me, holding me, anchoring me, reminding me that the loudest words are the ones we live. And that is from Archer's perspective. So I want to reiterate that, well, first of all, I want to apologize if I did spoil anything and you're mad at me on your side of the screen. I did give plenty of warnings, so I'm sorry. But secondly, I do want to emphasize that if I piqued your Aaron! I think the video cut off. An update to Adobe Flash Player is available?
Oh.
Damn. I was talking that long? It was recording? LOL.
It's still recording.
That's crazy. You better not put that in the blooper reel. He's gonna put it in the blooper reel. Anyway. I don't even bloody remember where I was. So, I do want to emphasize, again, that if I piqued your interest in this book, please, 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 please go get it. It's so good. And I'm not just saying it. We are not sponsored. However, if you do want to sponsor us, leave your info in the contact. We'll reach out. But anyway, I do recommend that you guys get the book. I'm pretty sure it's available anywhere. I got my book from Barnes & Nobles. Granted, that was in Gretna, Louisiana, so I don't really know what Books A Million's looking like in Hammond, Louisiana. But you can order it. It's available. And I found it on Book Talk. I recommend Book Talk. Love Book Talk. Did help me find one of my favorites. So definitely damn. What? Sam, shut up. Okay. It's a great book, and it's one of those. Okay. So yeah, definitely go secure the book if I piqued your interest. I do want to say that this book is not just one of those books where you read it and it's like, okay, well, put it back on the shelf. You will be grabbing this book again. It might be a minute, you might be just like looking and scanning, searching for something. You find this book and you're like, I need to read this book again because it's just that good. So yes. And if you do read the book, my video piqued your interest and you decided to read the book, please feel free to comment under the video. I will be checking the comments, hoping that I piqued, even if it's just one person. Even if just one person decides to find this book, buy this book, read this book, and comment, we would love to hear from you. And yeah, so with that being said, until next time, I'm Samantha Sims, your campus and community editor, and I'll see y'all around Southeastern. Line up and happy reading.